But even at the very beginning, she's talking to the ghost in the TV with the snow, the static. I'm running away here, but you were talking about the curse kind of stemming from the real life bodies that were used.
Yeah.
And also kind of coinciding with the film's plot hinging on...
Yeah, it deals with some, like, macabre kind of stuff. And I feel like that's why it's so easy to be like, this is the reason why all of these things are, you know, occurring. But, you know, at the same time, when you say something like that, it's kind of like, in a sense, or could be taken as, like, being disrespectful in a way. So, I don't know. It's very interesting. What do you think? It seems like you don't agree, but do you think that this film is cursed?
No, not at all.
No.
I just think there were some unfortunate tragedies that had occurred with the cast, and it's sad. And, you know, it's unfortunate that some people are taken before their time. But at the same time, that's life. You know, people unfortunately get sick and die, and people are unfortunately murdered, you know, before their time, or, you know, die tragically. And just because it happened to a few people in this cast, I don't think it necessarily means the movie's cursed. Like I said, there isn't, like, rampant stories of all kinds of odd shit happening on set while they're filming this movie.
I know, because this one, going back to my childhood, this Poltergeist 1 and 2, I remember having, when I was super, super little, for years, those big fancy boxes, the VHS, like big
like the
box.
Plastic?
Yeah.
The plastic
clamshell,
boxes? Yeah.
That you open up.
Yeah.
And they had, like, the classic kind of gray with the pictures they chopped up on it. But, and yeah, those first two were one of, like, with that and A Nightmare on Elm Street were pretty much my exposure to horror, right? And I remember my grandmother, like, loves, because I was raised by my grandparents, she loved Poltergeist, but it also kind of scared her because of that, the lore of it, where she was like, I don't know if I want you guys watching this over and over again, because I don't want it to bring anything into my house, you know what I mean? Like, and it's because of the kind of sensitive nature of the, you know, the plot, which is, I don't know, it's all very fascinating. This and of course, like, the director controversy is,
it's kind of like, why even bother talking about the movie when these two stories that have always kind of been connected to this film are really, really fascinating. And, you know, probably why a lot of people still talk about the movie to this day is, you know, just what's up with the directing credit, and is the movie really cursed? Because there was a lot of unfortunate deaths that have happened with people that have acted in this franchise. Not to disrespect the movie at all. Like, we're definitely going to talk some about the film here.
yeah.
But it's kind of why I like doing this show, and talking about movies, are kind of like the behind-the-scenes stuff. The movie's great, yeah, but it's kind of like the behind-the-scenes stuff is really fascinating, and I think makes for an interesting episode. We can sit here and we can go over the plot all day long. You can watch the movie and figure out the plot. But it's the behind-the-scenes stuff, or some of the stuff going on with production, that's always the most fascinating to me, and that's always what I like talking about on the show. Let's talk a little bit about the plot. Like I said, you know, we don't always have to rehash everything that happens in the movie, but
major beats, maybe.
Yeah, the major beats, and the main plot line of the story is that there's this home in suburbia, and there's some odd things occurring, and it seems like I said, when they start digging up the backyard to put the pool in is when things start to get creepy and crazy. And eventually, Carol Ann, the youngest daughter, disappears. and is kind of trapped somewhere in the house, in some kind of beyond limbo. They can hear her, they can communicate with her, but, they can't find her. And the family, like you said, Craig T. Nelson kind of goes through these stages where he just progressively looks worse throughout the film, just because of the stress.
Yeah, it looks like he's not sleeping.
Yeah,
he starts binge drinking.
Yeah, he's like smoking especially when he goes to see the parapsychologists, which was very Ghostbusters reminiscent.
Yeah,
another Ghostbusters connection I want to shout out is the effects. The effects were done by Richard Edlund, who is the main special effects supervisor on Ghostbusters and a lot of other movies we've talked about on this podcast, like Die Hard and The Hunt for Red October, Big Trouble in Little China.
You can definitely see the similarities between, with the gelatin at the end, towards the end, and even like when the beast is exposed.
The kind of wispy ghosts in a couple of the scenes. That kind of light, that kind of leaves that trail, or the wisps coming out of the TV and everything.
Yeah.
Very much have that Ghostbusters look to them. I know that Ghostbusters is 2 years after this, but Richard Edlund is the same guy. He worked for ILM for many years. Was still working for ILM, but I think after he does this movie, and then they do Return of the Jedi, and after Return of the Jedi, he forms his own company, and then from then on, did Ghostbusters and Big Trouble in Little China and The Hunt for Red October and Die Hard and all those other great films. But they see the parapsychologists, they tell them what's happening. They come, and the second act is kind of them being in the house, monitoring things from a very scientific point of view. And then realizing that they can't help them with just the modern technology. They bring in a medium who is the one to kind of help them get Carol Ann back. And famously, after they get her back, says, this house is clean. And it definitely is not. Because that sets up the climax, which is spookier and scarier than anything that's happened up until that point.
Which is, I think, the point of that is because they make you think that everything's fine.
Yeah.
And so they're comfortable staying in the house while they continue to move to somewhere else. And then all hell breaks loose again.
Yeah. Yeah, very much like when they're moving out and it kind of seems like everything is over with, and then you look and it's like, oh, there's still 20 minutes left in the movie. Something's going to happen. But speaking of, I want to shout out Craig T. Nelson and Jo Beth Williams, especially Jo Beth Williams, who I think is fantastic in the film. Both of them, and Jo Beth Williams especially, mainly because of the climax, because Steve is back at the office kind of finalizing some things and is out of the house, so it's really on Diane, who's played by Jo Beth Williams, to save her children, and she's great in the movie, especially during that climax.
I like the she goes in, so it's nighttime, and she kind of tucks in the kids, and then she goes to take a bath. And then when she goes back into her room, we get this scene that's very reminiscent of Nightmare on Elm Street, with where she's being dragged across the room.
Film is on a gimbal, where the room rotates, the actual set rotates, and that's why she's kind of
able to do that.
Yeah, she's kind of sliding up the wall and on the ceiling and everything. It's like the same thing in Inception with the hallway fight with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, where they're running on the walls and the ceiling because the set is rotating, which is awesome. It's an awesome effect.
Yeah, it looks good. But that kind of snowballs into all their crazy shit, right?
Yeah, it's the closet in the kids' room kind of comes alive again.
And Carol Ann you can tell she's just super over it.
It's
like, not again.
Yeah, and she even has a line where she's like, no more, because the same thing kind of happened to her when she gets kidnapped the first time. Which, I know we're talking about the climax now, but let's go back and talk about when she gets kidnapped the first time, because that's a real creepy scene.
Yeah, it is.
Because there's a thunderstorm, which the effects of the clouds coming in over the neighborhood that you see, you kind of see like the wide shot of the neighborhood and the clouds coming in, which very much looks like Close Encounters, when the clouds kind of are coming with the aliens. And then at the very end of Close Encounters with the clouds over the Devil's Tower. Looks exactly like that with the clouds coming in over the neighborhood. So it gives it like kind of this ominous look and feeling that something bad's going to happen. Even though it's just, you think it's just a regular thunderstorm. And there's the creepy tree, which... I don't know why that tree wasn't cut down. It shows no sign of life whatsoever. There's like no leaves on it, no greenery. It looks like the most obnoxious, scary, creepy tree you would ever see. And it's right outside the window. And Robbie's scared of it. And then that tree comes alive. And like basically the branches form arms and come in and grab him and pull him out through the window. So then that's when Steve and Diane go running down the stairs and outside to try to help him. And Carol Ann is left alone in the room. And that's when all like the stuffed animals and the toys, the closet opens up and then they're all kind of flying into the closet. The beds are moving. She's holding onto the headboard. We mentioned that before with she didn't like doing that stunt. And then Spielberg was the one to kind of reassure her that they weren't going to do it anymore. But that's another great scene where it looks like she's being pulled horizontally, which actually she's not. That's on a rotated set where she's actually hanging vertically off of the headboard. But she gets sucked into the closet. The tree outside is still being dealt with, and it tries to eat Robbie. Like, literally shoves Robbie down its mouth.
Yep.
And then... once Robbie is rescued out of the tree, they realize, where's Carol Ann? And they run upstairs looking for Carol Ann.
They pulled the Home Alone and they were like outside, right? And they're like, oh, I left her upstairs. Mm-hmm. And then everybody rushes back and they can't find her. And
then it's Robbie's the one to kind of realize that she's in the TV or she's in that world somewhere because he can hear her.
He has like a breakdown.
Yeah, he's pretty good at really having a good freak out. And then that's kind of what sets off the second act is her being kidnapped by the ghosts. Although I did read that originally the original story had her dying at the end of that first act and then being the one to kind of haunt the house.
Oh, really?
Later on, yeah, it was kind of like Hereditary, where the kid is going to die, and at the end of the first act, and then you think that the kid is responsible for all the hauntings or all the weird shit that's going on throughout the rest of the movie. And that's what I read originally was the story for Poltergeist, but killing a kid in your movie, especially so early, is pretty dark. So I could understand why they didn't want to go in that direction.
Did you read in your research that the MPAA actually gave it an R rating?
Oh yeah, that's another one of the main stories behind this. So it's 82, so it's 2 years before the advent of the PG-13 rating, which Spielberg again is the cause of the PG-13 rating. This was, another one of his films that he had done production on or had been involved with that was very much. This is not a movie for kids. So originally, it got an R rating. I'll still maintain to this day that it probably could have been R rated because it's pretty intense, especially that climax.
Yeah, the climax takes it to the next level for sure.
But yeah, it was originally R rated. Initially R-rated because it was before the advent of the PG-13. Spielberg and Hooper kind of disagree with it. They advocated for a PG rating, and then in the end, the on a